I wanted to do this since I was about 14. I didn't listen to pop music, I was listening to film soundtracks. It would be the works of, certainly then, John Barry, John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, Morricone, I suppose. That was the era of the late 60s, early 70s. The thrill of those fantasy sort of films coming out, and just think music being such a key part of that. Having said that, I don't write that kind of music necessarily now, and those aren't the sort of projects now as an adult that I do, but I suppose that's what it was. It was, I escaped into film music.
Traditionally, most other composers that I've seen interviewed kind of go, oh, they saw Star Wars and that was awesome. And I did see Star Wars and it was awesome. But definitely I couldn't connect myself to that. It was just an awesome thing. I remember seeing Angel Heart, which has got a Mickey Rourke film with a score by Trevor Jones. There was something about that got under my skin, because it was a bit like the noises I was making in contemporary dance. But I'd absolutely not made the leap that I could make these, because I was a synth geek, so I was sort of like, I was getting whatever cheap synths I could find and breaking them and trying to make them sort of do funny noises. And I just kind of thought, maybe there is a crossover.
I always wanted to do film composing, but to actually get to do it was kind of really tricky at the start, because you're basically asking people to entrust you with budgets and their film. You can break a lot of things with bad music in a film. There's been so many different jobs I've done in this industry in film music, whether it be orchestrating or programming or tea making, all these things have actually proved really useful in the long run.
I might have read a script, I might even have popped down to a location to see scenes being filmed, but I come in at a fine cut stage, ideally, and we can then talk about what we're dealing with as a film or as a show.
If it's something then it would tend to be, if there's some music going to be played as part of something and that was going to be shot, you might have to start early on and come up with some ideas that could be played on set if it was needed to. Some directors like an idea of the music because they can have that in their head as they shoot, and it might influence various things. That's kind of quite rare, but every now and then it comes up.
Over here, there's the perfect creative process. There's the bit where you've already got a pre-existing relationship with the director, where they send you the script in advance, where you maybe go down on set, you discuss ideas, you have 3 months to write it, you write during the cut, maybe you have some more changes to make, and then you have a luxurious recording and mixing period of another 6 weeks. So there's that, and then there's what actually happens. And what actually happens is often anything from ridiculous last-minute phone calls to like proper jokes, just sort of, surely that's not possible. And so you might be looking down the barrel of, I don't know, a feature film with 60 minutes of music to write, record and mix in 4 weeks. Sometimes less.
Often editors and directors will lay in what we call temp tracks, which are temporary pieces of music into a cut, just to show an idea of how a scene should be working, just to help with tension or with pace or with mood. So it's rare, sadly, that we get to see something without music already laid in.
It's only when I get to see things, or whether it be an assembled scene or anything, because everything starts to influence the way the music will be, like whether it be the way it's lit and the way all the colours of it, or just the way that the costumes are. Everything seems to have this weird kind of subconscious thing where all of a sudden the idea you had from reading the script isn't quite the one that's going to resonate with the picture. So sometimes I start early, and sometimes you get asked to come up with a couple of theme ideas early on, but for me it's only when you're really responding to the actual image and the way that it's been shot, that's when it starts to make sense, and that's when the real sort of work starts to happen.
We are going to discover many technological tools which are going to allow us to give the movie musical as much realism as when you go to today and see a war movie, or see one of the movies with so many sound effects, or you go and see Life of Pi. All this movie which has all these visual and sound effects which you thought were amazing, you think are amazing, and were impossible to do. And I must say that what we are doing, the recording live in this movie, was not possible to do 10 years ago. The tools had not been invented. We could not do what we have done, like segregate a pianist in a kind of glass cage, playing on a synth, and just with an invisible earphone in the ear of Hugh Jackman or Anne Hathaway or Russell Crowe, and no one knows there is any that earpiece in their ear, which is so small today that no one can see it. But they had it in their ear when they were singing, or it would not have been possible. So God knows what we're going to invent in the next 5 years.
Come to my writing room, it's one of those, screens everywhere and iPads and this and you know, it looks like an Apple showroom in there all the time. And yet, when I write tunes, I write them on a piano and with a piece of paper. And I know that when I'm reaching for the computer to try and solve the problem and for a computerized sound, particularly for orchestral music, then I'm pointing in the wrong direction, I really am. So I'm part of my sort of journey at the moment is trying to shake that up as much as possible and just going to record. So play live with some friends and we just record what we've done. But it means that you can't tweak it in the same way, there's not the same flexibility. When the picture cut changes, which it always does, it's already set in stone. So it's responsible for an incredible degree of productivity that we can do now, but also I think we've musically photocopied the soul out of what we do.
There's a tendency as a composer to work in quite a bit of isolation. For someone who's like me, who's quite gregarious, I don't know why I ended up with this job actually. I spent so much time in a room on my own with a computer. So I love working with real musicians to be able to bring in, you know, when we did the club scenes and things, bring the band in that, and always try and bring in musicians when we can.
The music thing is the element I do, but essentially you're more of a filmmaker who does the music bit. So you're kind of involved in all the same discussions about storytelling and character and all of those things to make the film as good as it can possibly be, and it just so happens that the area that I kind of help out with is music. But essentially the things you need are the same as the rest of them. It's being part of this team and the collaborator and kind of just coming into it without much of an ego really, and being happy to keep tweaking away and changing things and basically pushing it as far as it can go to make it as good as it can be.